Hello, everyone. My name is Mike. Welcome to another episode of the Man Under Construction YouTube channel. And this is the second episode of our channel, and it's barely in its infancy, and we're barely starting off. But I'm excited to do this. I'm usually used to doing this within the confines of a podcast, but to be able to step up on a platform like YouTube is a different animal, and I'm willing to take on that task. I'm willing to step forward and put myself out there, because I know that a lot of people out there have gone through the same things that I have gone, or maybe facing the things that I have faced in the past. And today's episode is going to be based on that. I'm going to go back, and I've shared this on my podcast, and I have a link down below to the podcast if you want to check that out as well. And before I jump into there, I am partnered up with Key Book Club, which is it's an app that provides book summaries for different books, for self-help books, various type of books, different kinds of literature, and they provide book summaries. And that is a very quick way to gain some knowledge, some insight, some wisdom. I know many of us are intimidated by really hefty books, but to be able to read them in a few pages, it seems a little bit more manageable, and that's accessible to you through Key Book Club. And I'll go ahead and post the link down below as well, so you can have access to that. You can try it for a couple of days if you like it. Subscribe, and not only will you help the guys there, but you'll help Man Under Construction continue and push forward this great content for men out there. I also want to let you know that I do have an Instagram, like I mentioned in the previous episode. There's an Instagram that I'm very active on there. I post a lot of content on there, and most of it is just stuff coming from my heart and things that I'm reading about, and different things that I'm learning along this journey of manhood. And also, I just launched a Patreon account, and I've been asked several times on how they could support what I'm trying to do here, the work that I'm trying to do, and reach men out there. And Patreon is an avenue to do that. It opens the door for you to support the different things that I'm doing here as far as content and equipment and merch that hopefully I got coming out soon. And there's three different tiers, and you can choose your tier, and each one provides different benefits that you can take advantage of depending on the pledge or tier that you join on. And also the podcast. The podcast is the Man Under Construction podcast, and we're 20 episodes in, and I do share my story through there, but I wanted to do it on this platform as well. So if you haven't heard that and you'd like to check it out, the links will be provided down below. So like I said, today's episode is going to be where I am now and how I got here. By the title of it, it's called The Death of Me. And really, it's about, where I am now, it's about the death of that old person that I was. But how can I tell you where I am now without telling you where I've been before? And like I said in the intro video in the first episode that we released, I was addicted to pornography for 20 plus years of my life. It consumed my every thought. It consumed everything anything that crossed my mind. It was disrespecting women. It was in the aspect of explicit thoughts, explicit mental daydreams that I had, and it expressed itself in that way. And it moved all along through my life and into my first marriage. It bled into that, and it destroyed that. But that's just a quick nutshell what it is of what happened to me throughout my life. But to go back, it all started when I was about in my teens, and it was something that, of course, in your teens, back when I was a teen, this is something that wasn't easily accessible. You had to work to try to get this kind of material. So I had been introduced through a friend, and it was just images, and from there sparked curiosity. And around that time, my parents were getting a divorce, and my father was really absent in my life around that time. I really didn't have any guidance, and I really didn't have any example to define what masculinity is, what manhood is. So I went on through life, and I continued, viewing explicit pornographic material every now and then whenever it was accessible at that time. But going into my 20s, 18, 19, the cell phone era started to pop up, and and the access to it was a lot more easy. Just with a click of a button, you can access this explicit content and engage in it and view it at your leisure. So that's when it really started to take a hold of me, and the effects of that, how it affects you, and it affects everyone differently, but by and large, it affects the way you think. It affects the way you see things. It affects your view on women. It affects what you expect women to do. And to deny that, I think, is to deny, or maybe you're just justifying the reason why you engage in it. And there might be people out there that disagree with me or say that nothing's wrong. I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to the individuals that this stuff has really wreaked havoc in their lives and want to change and want to be that better man. So throughout this process, in engaging with this material in my early 20s, I ended up getting married, but I didn't conquer that. A lot of people say, "Oh, I'll stop watching pornography when I get married." That's not the case. That never happens. Usually, when somebody says, "I'll change after this," the change never happens. So I thought that. I went into this marriage thinking that as soon as I have access to unlimited sex, I'd be okay, and I wouldn't long for this. I wouldn't thirst for this pornographic material. So I decided to, we went in and got married, and I kept this secret within myself for several years, for 5 years. It kept festering. It kept, whenever I had a time alone, whenever I had a chance, I would engage in this material. But one thing you got to understand, like I mentioned, this stuff affects the way you see relationships. It affects the way you see women. It affects the way you interact with women. It affects your thought life when you confront a woman. It affects every aspect of your life. And without realizing it, every moment of your life, every thought that comes into your life, you're replaying these images, these videos that cross your mind. And I expected this from my ex-wife. I expected this from the woman I was married to. I expected her to act in these ways that these actresses, these porn actors act in, and to look like if they were enjoying it, and to constantly look like they were having fun. And a lot of times, actually, I'd like to say most of the time, this stuff that you view isn't realistic. The stuff that you see, the positions and the things that go on are unrealistic. A lot of times these women are coerced into doing that, or in a place where if they don't do that, they don't get the money that they were promised or agreed upon. So what you see on this screen is simply a facade. Actors and actresses engaging in something that is disrespectful to the woman. A lot of times the women are abused. Anyways, you engage in this material and you try to portray that on your outside world, your relationships, and that's exactly what I tried to do. And it affected my marriage. So over the course of several years, I was really trying to change, and I came clean. I came clean, and I let her know that I was engaged in this material, and I really wanted to just come clean and start all over again. So I did that, hoping that things would change for me. And unfortunately, sometimes confessing is just the first step. But if you don't continue the work, you don't conquer much. You don't go over whatever you're trying to get over. So confessing is definitely the first start. And acknowledging that there is a problem is definitely where you need to begin. So, like I said, I confessed, but I didn't do the work. So it stayed entrenched in me, and I still battled it, and I still fought it. But the thing we got to understand is with any vice, with anything that comes within our grasp that we use to cope, to cover up something, the more it demands of you, the more that it's going to ask of your life. And that's exactly what happened to me. And it's not something that I'm proud of. It's not something that I go around parading. It's a highlight of my life. But pretty soon, or after the confession and after years of viewing this stuff, viewing alone didn't satisfy me. And I had to search for more. I had to search for something stronger to get that high, so to speak. And I ended up going outside the bounds of marriage and destroying a relationship that I had built, the trust that I had built, because of something that I couldn't control within myself. I lost that and destroyed a lot of things that meant so much to me. I lost access to my daughter, not complete access, but the ability to say goodnight to her every night, to kiss her goodnight, to be with her. I lost the security of a family and a home, what that brings, simply because I couldn't take this under control. And through that, once I was at the bottom and I lost everything, I realized that something had to change. Something really did have to change. So I continued in my life. We got a divorce because of all that, and rightfully so. A lot of stuff was broken, trust was broken, and so I continued on my journey through life, and I tried to change little aspects about myself, realizing that this had gotten under control and I lost so much, but I hadn't really conquered it. I hadn't really overcome it where it wasn't an issue. The tentacles of it were still entrenched in my life. So fast forward a couple years, I met my now wife, my wife now, and excuse me. And through the course of that, things had changed. I wasn't engaging in porn because I know how devastating it was on my prior relationship, and I was really trying to fight it, but fighting it off of sheer will. I was pushing it back off of sheer will, and I was still doing some of the old habits that I was still engaging in. I was still interact with women via text or be flirtatious, and a lot of stuff was starting to resurface. I was on track to destroying my second marriage because I wouldn't let go of some things. And that's where I found myself. That's when I realized things had to change for me. Things had to be different. If not, I would repeat history again and destroy another person, destroy another relationship, and I'd be in the same place I was just a couple years ago. And I would have caused more damage. I would have bled all over my wife now. I would have bled some more all over my daughter because I introduced her to a new person, and now I'm shattering that relationship. So a lot of stuff goes into that, and that's part of my story. That's part of who I am, and it's the foundation of why I started Man Under Construction, and why I started this page on Instagram, the podcast, and this channel was to share my story and let people know that it doesn't have to be that way. That you don't have to destroy everything in your life to realize that you can overcome certain things in your life. So with that being said, I'll leave it at that. I wanted to share just that aspect. I wanted to lay the foundation so you can know exactly where I'm going. And the good news is that I've recovered from that. I've overcome that. And I've started to build myself a better man, because throughout that time, I lost so many lessons in life as a man. I lost so many lessons in life on how to be a leader, protector, father, husband, warrior, to fight. I had no backbone. I had a low self-esteem. I was insecure. And all that were little things that hopefully, I will discuss it in the next episode, how I started to make the recovery and pick up the pieces of 20 plus years of a struggle that caused me to not grow and to stay an adolescent kid chasing adolescent hormone infused dreams, fantasies, I should say. They're not necessarily dreams, but I will leave it at that. And I will leave you guys thinking about that. And I hope that this story resonates with you. And I hope that this touches a part of you and you can relate to some of the stuff that I've said. And like I said, this stuff might not be for everyone. And I understand that, and comments will come and people will say stuff. But for the people that it does resonate with, I'm speaking to you guys. That there is a way out, and we can do it. And we can be the men that we're destined to be. We can be the men that we are called to be. The leaders we are called to be. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and leave you with that note. And we will continue on our next episode. And on our next episode, I will talk about how I started to recover, how I overcame it, and how I started to really pick my life up and the lessons I'm learning now. So like I said in the beginning, follow Man Under Construction on Instagram. I am very active on there. I post a lot of different stuff about what I'm reading. If you'd like to support what I'm doing, follow the link on the Patreon account that I'm going to link down below, and give your support, show your support in that manner, and a lot of little extra benefits that you get from being a supporter. So with that, I want to say stay safe and may God bless you, and I will see you next time.